All I got to say is he's back, the one and only Mr. Brian Lebo. We are going to talk Las Vegas. We haven't talked in 3 or 4 months on camera. He is obviously the world-class agent that helped Olivia and I get our property. We're going to talk about what has happened and what is happening right now in the Vegas market. You're going to want to pay attention to this because it's not good. How you doing, Brian?
I'm fantastic. I'm back. Sorry, everyone. It's been about 3 months. Been busy. Been busy helping this guy. Hey, can we all get a round of applause for Nevada's newest resident, Mr.
Yay!
and Mrs. Zuber?
Yeah.
Congratulations on no more ransom checks to Newsom. I'm sorry. I mean, income tax filings to California. Sorry. Get the
I
nomenclature
appreciate it. I got one more year, man. One more year. This last year. This last year.
right.
But yeah, let's catch up on the last 3 months. Again, what has happened? Kind of transactions, price. Everybody thought Vegas would be just a horrific crash. I think the last time we spoke, we just started to come out of it. You kind of saw, supply was down at record lows and prices were up. What's happened the last 3 months?
Yeah. So since you've been gone, it's been. I mean, Vegas is never ever dull, right? I mean, it can never be nice and steady and consistent. There's always some kind of drama associated with our market. So we're either rising dramatically or plummeting. But yeah, so things have been very, very interesting. So to recapitulate from where we left off last time, right? Our market, for some reason, we started plummeting in May of last year, which so did the national market, right? And it was very disconcerting because we didn't know how bad this was going to get. And then for some reason, December was surprisingly strong leading into January. I came out and said early, it's a wrap. It's over. December was the bottom. Now it's time to ride this wave, however long it lasts, going up. And that's precisely what technically has happened. So this entire year, we've been seeing the median price rise, 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 rise.
Hmm.
Now, the weird part of this dichotomy is the fact that median prices have been rising. On the other hand, our sales have been very, very dismal. So we've been typically doing about 2/3 of the normal sales that we typically do. So, I mean, anyone with an economics background freshman year in college knows that if sales are down, therefore demand, usually prices have to follow as well. As we know from a national standpoint, this isn't local to Las Vegas. We have a national inventory crisis. So right now we've been vacillating. We've pretty much stabilized for 3 months, but it's a really low stabilization. We've stabilized at around 34, 3,500 homes on the market. Now that means nothing to you guys. But what that typically means is we sell about, let's just say 3,000 plus homes this time of year. So we should be sitting on about 4 to 5 week supply of inventory.
Wow.
Like any measure, that is an absurdly hot buyer's market. But is it? That's what we're going to discuss. So everything about this market, if you've been watching my video updates, each update kind of is more like, here's what's going on. This defies all the laws that we know when it comes to economics. So what's been happening basically is the inventory has pretty much bottomed out. It can't really get too much lower. It seems like we've stabilized, but prices keep going up because the low end's being driven up. There's not much affordable housing here, just like anywhere. And what's really weird is it's kind of the middle that's been affected the most. The low end, there's not much, so it's still a fight. And on the ridiculous high end of the market, I had a client for $6.5 million. This house was listed for 6.5. It was about to be completed. The day the house was completed, they raised the price to 7.5 million. My client said, "How the hell are they going to ask another $1 million?"
Right.
And in 2 weeks, it was gone.
Oh,
$7.5 million. That's a lot, especially here in Vegas. But the ultra luxury market has actually been pretty well insulated from what's been going on. It's the one segment that's actually performing better than the rest of the entire market. So again, very, very odd, but this month seems to be, we're on the precipice of something. Um, Everyone knows summertime is the best time of the year, right? We should be
right.
we should be flourishing. The only real exception was last year because the market started tanking in May. So, of course, June, July, August, so on and so forth was miserable. This year has been really, really strange where can't say it was good, but homes were still selling because there weren't many options. Like I've said a million times on my channel, if there's 3,500 homes on the market, 2,000 of those homes, like about 55, 60%, are so overpriced. Good luck. You're not going to sell it. And we'll talk later, but Michael knows from his own experience, some of these prices, you scratch your head and go, really? You seriously think you're going to get, okay, cool. Well, I don't know how long it's going to take for you to figure out you're not,
Yeah.
but that's crazy. So this past month, it's crickets in Vegas. It's been really, really slow. And I've spoken to numerous amounts of agents, and we're all kind of in the same position going, what is it? Is it the market? Is it the fact that we've just had abnormal heat? I mean, it was brutal this July. It's always bad in Vegas. This was really bad. So I personally had a couple clients that were really high end that just said, we're calling a mulligan. We'll see you in mid-August. We don't even want to deal with that. So there's some of that going on. Maybe some families are taking vacations, school starting here earlier than normal, but we were doing okay. And then right when we hit July, it's literally like we've gone off of a cliff. And I haven't seen anything like this really for a year where properties that should sell aren't selling.
Well, let's poke at that a little bit because again, it's nothing like talking to an expert that's in the market all the time like yourself. And again, if you're not watching Brian Lebo for Vegas data, you're missing out. He puts out these summaries that are just pure gold and entertaining. I have no idea how he does it. They're wonderfully done. But we got to tie a couple of things together. The heat matters, right? We happened to close on our place when it was 115. It was hot. That was a little warm.
At least you weren't moving a truck.
Yeah. No, I would not be moving in it. No, I would not be doing that. So it was really warm. We also got to realize that interest rates spiked to 7%.
Yeah.
And we know from last year that 7% matters. I mean, last year, 6% matters. So it will be interesting. I will talk to other agents. I talked to Beth on Mondays. I talked to Adrian on Wednesdays, and other high price markets, Orange County and Seattle. And I'm going to see if demand fell off a cliff, because this is not going to necessarily be about July. It's going to be about August and September, right? Because when you say demand fell off, to you, that's open escrows. You're not counting closings. You're counting open escrows, right?
Exactly. So if you're right now, we're suffering in July, you won't see the results of that July manifest until the closings occur, which are going to be
Right.
August and September. So I'm expecting a very quiet August, very quiet early September, because not much activity occurred during the month of July.
So then the real question becomes supply, because you've been bouncing around the bottom for months now, 32, 33, 3,500 active listings. I mean, I was there. I spent 6 weeks there over a couple of months, and it was like, that's it. That's all
Not
we're
much.
looking at.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because one thing I know with pretty good clarity, days on market at the country could double by the end of the year, unless rates dramatically fall. But it's funny that, again, Vegas leads a lot of this. So
Yeah.
might Vegas days on market double first? I think what you're telling me is yes.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm definitely going to look at when I pull the numbers. I pulled some preliminary numbers earlier before the show, but typically I try to pull. I'm actually going to do this month's video tomorrow because I'm going on vacation this weekend. But usually I give it a few days to season those numbers, and then we have more concrete numbers. But from what I'm seeing, from what I pulled this morning, sales are down from last year, and last July was terrible. So
Wow.
last July we sold about 1,900 homes, which was 2/3 of our typical. And right now we're sitting above 1,600. Now that number could easily go to 1,700, maybe 1,750 with everything closing today.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is if you go back 2 years to 2021, we sold, I think it was like 3,200 homes. Let's
Wow.
see. I've got the number right here. Yeah, so in 2021, we sold 3,203 homes, and right now we're sitting at 1,634. So we're not even doing two-thirds of the production. We're actually doing half of the production of what we should be doing. And
Wow.
that's this month, which reflects on what went into escrow in
Yeah.
April, May, May, June. So
Yeah. So
it's
it's Vegas may be in trouble.
Well, it looks like, we were hoping to get a little bit of relief from interest rates. That obviously doesn't look very good at this point. Hopefully we can plateau here, but going into the winter time, like I try not to freak out about 1 month,
Yeah.
but it is a little concerning how quiet things got considering this is peak time of the year. That combination is something to be a little concerned about.
Yeah.
And what I've seen as well is a lot of the seller's behavior. One anecdote. So my client and I, we wrote an offer a couple weeks ago, and this is some of the stuff that's kind of been going on where you go, what kind of market do you think this is? So
Yeah.
I had an agent, decent guy. He watches my videos. We had a good working relationship. Well, this house, they just purchased this house in January for $980,000. This house couldn't sell. They were trying to sell it for 1.15, couldn't sell it. They dumped it at 980. These people came in, bought the house. It was a temporary landing spot. Well, they put it back on the market for 1.2 million. So they're
Oh,
trying to get 220,000 off of this property in the span of like 6 months. The market actually has gone up, but 220, how good did you buy the property?
yeah.
That's the question. They couldn't sell it at 115. You swooped in at 980. If you didn't buy it, maybe it would have sold, maybe it wouldn't have. Suffice to say, we came in, we offered these people $1.1 million, which was a pretty generous offer. They could have flipped around 120K in 6 months. Pretty fair. And again, this same house couldn't sell for 1.15. We're offering them 1.1. They literally sat on it, didn't respond. I reached back out. Ultimately, they said, you know what? We weren't moved by it. And we've had a lot of activity.
Yeah.
We think this house is worth 1.2. Okay. We revised our offer. We went up to 1.17, $30,000 off just to be done with it. And they just kind of just
Wow.
total laissez-faire, didn't really respond. So finally, my client had enough. We just said, how arrogant are you that you didn't even counter, you didn't even respond? Really? No, forget it. We walked. It's been about 2 weeks, nothing. Still sitting there. And I'm guessing probably another 2 weeks and I'll be getting a phone call, but we're not going to pay that 117 that we offer now. It'll be below 115. And they've been sitting for a month. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot of sense, but they're in a position where they feel confident because they paid cash. They're not desperate and they want to see
Yeah.
what the market does. So there's a lot of weird stuff like that going on, but I'm also seeing properties now that would have sold even 3 months ago that are coming down on the price, down, 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 and nothing. So I took a listing that is a super coveted listing, no neighbors behind, just the natural desert landscape. And I mean, 5,000 square feet for 1.3 million in Anthem. So a master plan community in a gated community. Awesome pool. I mean, this house normally would sell in a week. We went almost a week without even a phone call. We had one showing. The other home for sale in there is under comps. That agent contacted me and said, hey, how are you doing? We've been on the market a month and we haven't had one showing, not one
Wow.
showing. And then there's the neighborhood that you and I were talking about in, Inverness, those big
Yeah.
homes. It's parking lot, still a parking lot, just sitting. So things are really, really cooling off. And right now it doesn't seem as though the sellers are really adopting to what's happening. So the question is going to be, is this just a weird, isolated, heated month of July, or is this the beginning of a downward trend, kind of like we saw last year? And again, it doesn't help going into the winter. So potentially there could be some buying opportunities in November and December if we continue to trend down, which might not be a bad idea because hopefully we come into spring with some good news and some adjusted mortgage rates, especially for flippers. Might not be a bad play to pick up something in November, December. By the time you rehab and are ready to put it on the market, you might be going into a better market. But
Yeah.
let's give it a little bit of time and see what happens here.
Yeah, I think there's so much in that. And one of the things that you do in your weekly series that I love is how you have the price points, or your
Yeah.
monthly series, the price points. And I just want to catch people up on what you and I were doing together when you helped us again. You helped Olivia and I get something. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But I came to Vegas looking at the 1 million to 1.5 area because I consume your data. It's like that's the part where there's maximum pain, right?
Right.
Most listings seem to be stacking up, least demand. And we took some shots. We took one shot, if you remember, on a really big property on the lake for like 2.5 or 2.3 or
Right.
something. We needed seller financing. It had been listed for a long time.
Right.
Didn't go that way. It ended up closing cash, I guess. Good for them. Then we took a shot at a property that was completed but it was, I felt 300 grand overpriced. I think they came down and eventually sold. But that's why we had to go new. We didn't see anything else. I mean, you did your best showing us all over the place.
Right.
Other than those two, and actually the second one would have been a little bit of a sacrifice because we didn't think it was secure, right? No gate, none of that.
Sure.
Um, we had to go buy new. I mean, that was just, and then they gave us a lower rate, then they took a discount, and it became a no-brainer for us. But it'll be weird. Like if we were shopping in November, what might happen? Because as you know, I'm cheap and creative.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 or 5 months from now, we could have found a seller that's like, okay, no showings in a while. I'll
Right.
look at a creative offer. You know, maybe, I bet you the answer would have been different in November. It's just a wild guess.
I think so. I mean, look, everyone, no matter how much money you have, everyone has a breaking point, whether it's financial or just personal frustration. At some
Right.
point, everyone just says, we tried, let's just be done with this. It's not worth the mental anguish.
Right.
And I think we might finally start seeing a little bit of that, especially for those vacant properties where they've moved
Yes.
out of state. If they do have a nut to make, they're not going to be happy writing that check month after month after month after month. And when the market starts stagnating and when you don't have showings like now, it's going to change. So, like, probably the craziest deal that I've seen this entire year happen. Same client who we had that offer on, he sent me one, and I'm like, no, there's clearly there's a story here. There's no way this house sold for it. So this house in Summerlin South, awesome modern home, 3,500 square feet. The last one sold for 1.845, so almost 1.9 million. Let's just say 1.8. This house was the same exact floor plan. Backyard had a older kind of dated pool for a modern new neighborhood, and the flooring was a little busy, but I mean, how much do you adjust for that? Nah. Well, it turns out the agent I called because I'm like, there's no way. There's no way this house sold. The house sold for $1.1 million, and there's no way.
Wow.
There's like no way, no way. Contacted the guy. He explains to me that the seller, his wife had passed away in February. He decided that he wants to get out of town. He decided to buy a house in Georgia. His financing wasn't working out in Georgia. He was under a time crunch. They kept lowering the price. Everyone complained about the pool. Everyone complained about the flooring, and they couldn't get an offer. So they were going to start lowering the price. A flipper came in, offered him 1.1 million. The agent goes to the seller and goes, dude, there's no way, don't take it. Like, we can always sell this in a day for like 1.4, 1.3. Don't do it. Finally, the seller breaks and says, just take the deal. They take the deal. The flipper gets a little greedy and goes, we don't think it's really worth 1.1, trying to nickel and dime, just pennies off. Finally, they nix the deal. They still don't have any showings. The next door neighbor offers to give the guy 300 grand to finish his house in Georgia, but he wants to buy this house for 730. It's like robbery. Finally, the listing agent goes, dude, there's no way. I'll just buy the house. So he and another guy that I know ended up buying this house for 1.1 million. That's worth 1.8. They're in the middle of demoing it, and they already basically have it under contract for 1.5 once the pool is done. But the moral of the story was, here was a seller that had motivation.
Yeah.
And
He's just
just gave
done.
up. Just
Yeah.
done.
That And I have found those. You saw my creative offers. We worked on
Yeah.
these. I
Yeah. I
take
mean,
lots of shots.
yeah.
Eventually, someone says yes.
Yeah, it's you are looking for somewhat of the needle of the haystack. It's not going
Yeah.
to be a perfect home, otherwise it would have
No, of
sold.
course.
But these guys are going to make 350,000 just basically remodeling a pool and turning it back around. But that kind of illustrates kind of where things are, that for a house that sold for 1.8, they couldn't get 1.5. That's pretty strange.
Yeah.
And that sales price is insane. But that neighborhood as well, when I pulled the comps, complete parking lot. Nothing is in escrow. And here's the one guy in the neighborhood that's like, look,
So
I'm willing to
I'm
sell it
out.
for whatever. Yeah. So there's going to be some of these neighborhoods that are just completely stagnated. And this is just like what we talked about before. Some people are going to pull them off, and some people are just going to have to feel the pain.
Well, I'm going to be in Vegas at the end of the year, so you and I may need to do something.
Yeah.
We
Looks
may
like
need to help some people and just go make a couple
yeah.
$100,000.
It doesn't sound like a bad day's work.
There you go, brother. Well, do me a favor. You put out a lot of amazing stuff. Again, I think Vegas. We're going to see. Does the heat matter? Does activity pick up in August, or is this the start of something? And
Yeah.
given the rest of the country, I think we're starting something. Rates matter. It's a weird time, I think.
And the other thing too is, a lot, Vegas, they're not going to admit to any kind of adversity because that's not good. People want to buy into hype. I had a party I had to go to the other day at MGM, and Wet Republic is like the big pool party. And it wasn't even that busy on a Saturday. From the executives that I know on the strip, I've talked to them. It's been quiet. So again, is this something? Is it nothing? Look, yeah, the heat. This was a rough year in July, but let's be honest. I mean, the difference between 112 and 116, you know, it's a record,
It's
but
hot.
dude,
It's
it's
hot,
hot
hot,
as hell.
hot. It's
There's
hot.
never been a July where you're like, damn, it's kind of nice out. It's not even that hot. It's always hot in Vegas in July. So to a degree, I have a hard time buying the fact that the heat kept everyone away from Vegas. Don't know about that so much. But again, is this something to freak out about? Perhaps not, but it's certainly something to keep a vigilant eye on, because if it happens again next month, now we solidify.
Now we got a problem.
Now we have a
Because again,
trend.
yeah, you got July transactions down 60% of normal. Then you have very little activity, crickets.
Yeah.
This is a problem. This could be a problem.
Yeah, and just like what you did, a lot of people, new homes are premium pricing. You don't have a backyard. So there are some drawbacks. They're not necessarily the best bargain or value out there. But on the other hand, there's nothing like new. And there's two factors. One, what Michael talked about earlier, the difference is all these new builders, you can pretty much negotiate if you get with them. You can negotiate a 5% interest rate. So it puts you right back on par with where we all want to be. And they're just buying down the rate for you. That's just kind of part of the deal. So that's really nice. The other thing, I don't know if you saw, there was an article that came out on Saturday from CNBC, and it was talking about like the top 4 cities that people are looking to move to. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Vegas was number one,
Vegas was
5,800
number
net
one.
net
Yep,
inflow.
exactly. And what was the number one migrationary place from
California.
28,000? It was San Francisco,
Yeah.
28,000. So like I've explained to people forever, the one good aspect about Las Vegas is we do have a healthy economy. There's a ton of stuff that I can't even talk about
Oh,
that's
it's
on the
it's yeah,
horizon, that's
exactly.
coming, that most people don't know about. And then the other aspect is we always have you guys in California. So as long as we have California, we're
Right next
kind of
door.
okay. So we're bringing in a much wealthier population than we've ever seen before, which is part of the reason why that ultra luxury market is performing
Exactly.
absurdly well. But
Yeah.
I'm not very worried about Las Vegas from a macro perspective, because our net migration is fantastic, and we're bringing in, again, more affluent buyers to the market. So we'll be okay. But again, this is a little bit troubling to see.
There you go. Well, Brian, you do amazing stuff. What is your YouTube channel?
So yeah, you guys can go to YouTube, the Lebo Group, or Lebo Knows. You'll see my ugly mug right up there. But yeah, come check out my channel every month, which this week I'll be putting up, or actually next week I'll be putting up this month's update. So I run through all the analytics, and like you've seen today, I'll run through all the analytics and I'll tell you if this is something that is worth looking at or this is an empty calorie. This is what happens every year. So don't freak out either way. And then, of course, anytime that there's a major news update that affects real estate, then I tend to do special update videos regarding that specific subject and how that actually really relates to real estate. And then the more fun aspect is I do a lot of mansion property tours.
Yeah.
Actually, Wednesday is going to be awesome. I'm shooting a $15 million modern
Woo.
estate in Vegas. So you guys are going to want to check that one out. So if you like my vibe, if you like me screwing around and talking, then you can enjoy me walking through, a gorgeous luxury property. It's mostly modern, or a lot of times I do flip properties, and you can see what other people are doing with flips. Especially right now, you're seeing an aesthetic change in all these flips, from the gray and white motif to this California coastal motif. So I'll cover why these changes are made, what that encompasses and entails, and kind of walk you through a lot of the construction aspects of these remodels or custom homes. So if that's interest to you guys, definitely subscribe to my channel. Hit me up if you have any questions, and I'd appreciate the support.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.